What's up, Packer fans? Welcome back to Cheesehead Talk. It's your boy Tramel coming back with another video. In this video, I'm going to give my preview for the Green Bay Packers matchup versus the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday Night Football. So let's talk about it. This is another big game. It's a short week, and we're facing a Philadelphia Eagle team who's had their struggles. They're coming into this game sitting at 1-2. But don't let the record fool you. They could easily be 3-0 right now. Last week against the Lions, I think they had 7 drops in that game. And if they could have fixed those drops, then they could have easily won that game against Detroit. And the week before that, they had a lot of drops and they had a lot of injuries in that football game against the Atlanta Falcons in week 2. So this team could easily be sitting at either 2-1 or 3-0. And they're still a very talented football team. They have battled injuries, but they still have Carson Wentz. Alshon Jeffrey is supposed to come back in this game. They still have Zach Ertz. They still have a very good offensive line. This team is very talented. And then on the defensive side of the football, they still have that nasty front seven. So this isn't a guaranteed win. And Philly's going to come in and they're going to give it their all. And we're going to have to do the exact same. So let's talk about this matchup. And let's start with the injury report first. The Green Bay Packers have 15 guys on their injury report. That's an improvement from last week. We had 18 guys on the injury report before the game last week, and now this week is 15. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they're also banged up. They have 11 guys on their injury report. So let's look at the Packers injury report. Montravius Adams, shoulder. Brian Balaga, shoulder. Oren Burks, chest. Kenny Clark, knee. Kyler Fackrell, shoulder. Rashawn Gary, calf. Jimmy Graham, groin. Aaron Jones, shoulder. Kevin King, chest. Jake Kummerow, shoulder. Blake Martinez, shoulder. Will Redmond, knee. Darius Shepard, hamstring. Zadarius Smith, knee. Jamal Williams, neck. And that's the injury report for the Green Bay Packers. Now let's look at the Philadelphia Eagles injury report. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, heel. Derek Barnett, ankle. Corey Clement, shoulder. Ronald Darby, hamstring. Andre Dillard, knee. Nathan Gary, calf. Dallas Goedert, calf. Kamil Hill, knee. Deshaun Jackson, abdomen. Alshon Jeffrey, calf. Tim Jernigan, foot. And Nate Sudfeld, left wrist. So that's the injury report for the Philadelphia Eagles. They have 11 guys on their injury report, and the Green Bay Packers have 15. And that's pretty much expected. They literally just got done playing the game on Sunday, and now they're going right back on the football field on Thursday. But most of these guys will be playing on Thursday for the Green Bay Packers, and it really shouldn't be anything to worry about. And then for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think Deshaun Jackson will miss this game. He's most likely out for this game. He was supposed to miss 2 games, and he missed last week's game against Detroit. And this should be the second game that he's missing. He still has a small chance to play, but he'll most likely be out of this one. And Alshon Jeffrey, he should be returning in this game. Doug Peterson said he expects Alshon Jeffrey to return this week against the Green Bay Packers. Now, to the matchup. Aaron Rodgers versus Carson Wentz on Thursday Night Football. I'm super excited. These are my 2 favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. Carson Wentz is my 2nd favorite quarterback in the league. But that all goes out the window on Thursday. He's now an opponent. He's now the enemy on Thursday night. And let's talk about some things that we have to do to stop Carson Wentz and that offense on Thursday night. Now, of course, we have to get pressure on Carson Wentz in this football game. The first 3 weeks of the season, week 1 against Chicago, we got pressure on Mitchell Trubisky. Week 2 against Minnesota, we got pressure on Kirk Cousins. And week 3 against Denver, we got pressure on Joe Flacco. So I'm expecting this Packers defense to get pressure on Carson Wentz. We lead the league in quarterback pressures this year. So I'm expecting that to continue this week. And this Philadelphia Eagles offensive line has been giving up a little bit of pressures on Carson Wentz. Last week against the Detroit Lions, they got after Carson Wentz a little bit. They got 3 sacks in that game. And the week before that, in week 2, against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons got after Carson Wentz. They got a lot of pressures on him. They got 3 sacks in that game as well. So this Philadelphia Eagles team will give up some pressures on Carson Wentz. And like I said, we lead the league in quarterback pressures. And I'm expecting this defense to get after Carson Wentz in this game. Now, when we do get after Carson Wentz, we have to get him on the ground because this guy's escapability is amazing. He's like a better version of Big Ben Roethlisberger. His escapability is second to none when it comes to breaking tackles. So we have to make sure that we wrap up and tackle Carson Wentz because he will escape some tackles. And he can also use his legs and escape the pocket. He really has some underrated mobility and he's very sneaky. So we have to get pressure on him and we have to get him down to the ground. And also, if he escapes the pocket, he's a guy just like Aaron Rodgers, just like Russell Wilson, just like Patrick Mahomes. He can make any throw on the football field. He is by far the most talented quarterback that this Green Bay Packers defense has seen this season. Like I said, he could do everything on the football field. He can make every single throw. He can escape tackles. He can use his legs and run. He's just very talented. And he surely isn't the reason why this Philadelphia Eagles team is sitting at 1-2 right now. He's really had a very good season so far. And if the wide receivers could stop dropping the balls, then this team will have a better record. Moving on, another thing we have to do in this football game, we have to contain Zach Ertz. Like I mentioned earlier, the wide receivers for this football team, they're struggling. They're either battling with injuries or they're dropping the football. And Zach Ertz, he's really the most consistent guy on this football team. And he's a top 3 tight end in the league. And he's a matchup nightmare. So we're going to have to contain Zach Ertz. And if we can do that, that'll give us a huge chance to win this football game. Also, we have to stop the run. The Green Bay Packers have had trouble stopping the run the last 2 weeks. We've given up over 140 yards in the last 2 games against Minnesota and against the Denver Broncos. So we have to stop this Philadelphia Eagles run game. This Philadelphia Eagles team uses all 3 running backs. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, and Darren Sproles. They're all going to get touches in this game. And we're going to have to shut down that run game. And also, we got to continue to get takeaways. Right now, we are leading the NFL in total takeaways with 8. And Carson Wentz is a guy who really doesn't throw many interceptions. So it's going to be very tough. But sometimes he will throw interceptions. So in this game, I want at least 2 takeaways in front of the home crowd. I want to see 2 takeaways in this football game for the Green Bay Packers. And I think if we do most of these things on the defensive side of the football, we bring another performance like we've brought the last 3 weeks on defense, we'll win this football game. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, this is the game the Packers need to have a breakout game. This is the game where they need to put consistent drives together and they need to put some points on the scoreboard. And I think they will do that in this game. But in order to do that, these are some things they have to do if they want to put points up and be successful against this Philadelphia Eagles defense. We have to be able to run the football. So far, the first 3 weeks of the season, Green Bay has kind of struggled running the football. 2 out of 3 of the games that we've played, we've struggled. Against Chicago, the run game was completely absent in that one. And then against Denver last week, in week 3, we struggled to run the football with Aaron Jones. He only had 19 yards. But Jamal Williams did come in and he had a solid day. He had 52 yards. But the run game isn't where we want it to be yet. And we've yet to see a long run. I think the longest run of the season for the Packers is 17 yards. And that came from Aaron Jones in that week 2 matchup against Minnesota. So we need to run the football in this game. And this Philadelphia Eagles defense, they're stingy when it comes to the run this year. They only give up 2.9 yards per carry. They gave up 3.1 yards to Detroit last week. They gave up 3.4 yards per carry to Atlanta in week 2. And in week 1, they only gave up 2.2 yards to the Washington Redskins. So this is a very stingy Philadelphia Eagles run defense. And it's going to be tough for the Packers to run on this defense, but I think we can do it. And also, we got to get Devontae Adams going in this game, and we have to get him his first touchdown of the season. He's gone the first 3 weeks of the season without a touchdown, and that's extremely rare for Devontae Adams to go 3 straight games without a touchdown. So I think this is the game he gets his first touchdown, and I think he's going to have a huge game in this one. And this is my reason why. Philadelphia's secondary is the biggest hole on their defense. They haven't had a good secondary in years. Even when they won the Super Bowl, they had holes at their secondary position. And their number one corner, Ronald Darby, is out of this game. He won't be playing in this one. And even though he's been playing bad this season, I think it's still a big loss for the Philadelphia Eagles in their secondary. Like I said, he's their number one corner. And another reason why I think Devontae Adams will have a big game in this one, this is very interesting, guys. Philadelphia, since week 1 of 2018, have given up huge games to big name wide receivers. Let's go down the list. Amari Cooper, he had 10 catches, 217 yards, and 3 touchdowns against them last season. Michael Thomas, in his 2 games against them in the regular season game, he had 12 catches for 171 yards and 1 touchdown. And in the playoff game, he had 4 catches for 92 yards and 1 touchdown. Julio Jones, going back to that playoff game in 2018, he had 10 catches, 169 yards, and 0 touchdowns. And then when they met up in the regular season last year, he had 5 catches for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. Corey Davis, last season, he had 9 catches, 161 yards, and 1 touchdown. Allen Robinson, in that playoff game last season, 10 catches, 143 yards, and 1 touchdown. Adam Thielen, 7 catches, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 10 catches, 91 yards, 0 touchdowns. DeAndre Hopkins, 9 catches, 104 yards, 0 touchdowns. Mike Evans, 10 catches, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. And Terry McLaurin, this season in week 1, 5 catches, 125 yards, and 1 touchdown. So this Philadelphia Eagles secondary gives up big games to big name receivers, and Devontae Adams is one of those big name receivers. And I expect him to have a monster game against a hurt Philadelphia Eagles secondary that was already struggling. And I'm expecting Marquez Valdez-Scantling to have a big game as well. This is a Philadelphia Eagles secondary who's basically giving up 300 yards in the air. So I'm expecting these 2 Packer wide receivers to have big games. And if you have them on your fantasy team, I suggest you start them. I will start Marquez Valdez-Scantling this week. And of course, Devontae Adams. Another thing we have to do in this game, we have to continue to protect Aaron Rodgers. We're getting better at that every single week. Week 1 against Chicago, we really struggled to protect Rodgers in that game. And that Chicago Bears defense was getting after him on almost every single play. But the next week in week 2 against Minnesota, we really improved and we went the entire first half without giving a sack. And we only gave up 2 sacks in that game. And then last week against Denver, we gave up a few pressures, but we didn't give up a sack. And Aaron Rodgers was only hit once in that football game. And now we're facing the Philadelphia Eagles defensive front, who's really struggled to get sacks. They only have 2 sacks this season. They got 1 against the Washington Redskins in week 1. And then they got another sack in week 2 against the Atlanta Falcons. And last week against Detroit, they didn't record a single sack against a struggling Detroit Lions offensive line. If the Packers offensive line play like they did last week, then we really shouldn't have any problems with that Philadelphia Eagles pass rush. But those are some of the things I think we need to do on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball if we want to win on Thursday night. This is another huge game. This will be big for this ball club if we could start the season off 4-0. We will start the first quarter of the season undefeated. And we can get some separation in the NFC North this week. Kansas City is playing Detroit this week, and I'm pretty sure the Chiefs are going to win that football game. And then Minnesota and Chicago play against each other. So Green Bay will have separation from at least 2 teams in the NFC North when it comes to the NFC North standings. So this is a big week for Green Bay. And also, we'll have a lot of time to get these guys rested up and prepared for the Dallas Cowboys in week 5. So it's a very important game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Thursday night. And my prediction for the game, I think the Green Bay Packers get another home win and improve to 4-0 and 3-0 at home with the score of 31-20. That's my week 4 preview for the Green Bay Packers versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Let me know your score predictions for the game. Let me know what you guys want to see in the game on Thursday night. And also leave a like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and also follow the social media on Instagram and on Twitter at Cheesehead_talk. Again, that's Cheesehead_talk. Go Pack Go.